14 principal gods in ancient Roman history, perhaps Bacchus thought he had the most figured out. He was the god of wine, relaxation, and intoxication, and all of this, he believed, led to happiness. Or maybe it was Cupid, who found happiness by forcing women to fall in love with him with his little arrows. It might have even been Hades, who, before he was god of the underworld, found happiness in his three-headed dog Cerberus. I guess we know how well that one worked out. This isn't ancient Rome, but we are all trying to be happy, just like those gods of mythology. We search for a simple path to happiness by relying on material possessions and the affirmation of people in our lives. However, it seems that we are approaching happiness in the wrong way. Instead of searching for the recipe to happiness, we may need to change our perspective on what happiness really is. We live in a world where over 4 million people die from starvation every year. A world where 6-year-olds can't feel safe in their own school. A world where one superstorm can destroy millions of lives. In a world such as this, it's hard to imagine happiness is even possible. So how do we find happiness in a world full of sadness? First, we can examine the many myths of how to achieve happiness. Then, we can consider the myth that happiness is not a choice. And finally, we can determine whether these myths of happiness are true. Myth number 1. There is a simple path to happiness. Philosophers from Aristotle to Princeton's Harry Frankfurt have called happiness the ultimate purpose in life. Even the founding fathers considered the pursuit of happiness as an inalienable right. Bookshelves are packed with titles like 101 Great Ways to be Happy and Your Stairway to Heaven, Happiness in Just 7 Easy Steps. With this constant message of happiness pulsing through our society, you would think that we actually knew what happiness entails. The fact is, philosophers, scientists, and Merriam-Webster have all failed to come up with a definition of happiness that makes everyone, well, happy. One thing is for certain. Everybody wants it, especially Americans. In fact, the phrase, how to be happy, is Googled over 45,000 times in the United States alone. We are the only country that extols the fundamental right to happiness in an official document. Yet, the United States ranks pretty far down the list of the happiest countries in the world. The Happy Planet Index is an efficiency measure. It measures countries by how many long and happy lives they produce per unit of environmental input. The 2012 HPI ranks 151 countries. The United States ranks 105th. So, who's happier than America? The impoverished and suppressed Uzbekistan ranks 54th. Genocidal Rwanda ranks 100th. And Iraq ranks 36th. People who are being hunted in the streets and don't have access to clean water or iPhones are still able to achieve more happiness than us. Why are Americans so unhappy? An Adweek survey found that 64% of Americans believe that having more money will lead to more happiness. Well, any rapper ever will tell you, mo money, mo problems. But Benjamin Franklin once said, money has never made man happy, nor will it. There's nothing in its nature to produce happiness, and he couldn't have been more right. It was proven in a study conducted in 1978, where researchers found that lottery ticket winners were no happier than those who hadn't won. So, if we can't throw money at it, what should we do? False avenues to happiness are all around us, and they are really easy to take advantage of. As a girl, wearing new clothes is one of the best feelings ever, but still temporary. Some of us look for happiness in just one more Twinkie, a trip to the gym, or an hour in the tanning bed. But any feeling of happiness one gets from these actions isn't long-lasting. Author Lori Deschênes once stated, "The world doesn't change all that much if you have more money, a different space, a better job, or a nicer car. The wrapping paper is different, but the gift inside stays the same." People often search for happiness through religion. Though religion provides a sense of fulfillment and hope, it isn't necessarily the true way to happiness. In fact, the Bible only mentions the word happy or happiness 11 times. It appears in the Quran 20 times and only 9 times in the Book of Mormon. No matter which faith you belong to, religion's purpose isn't to deliver happiness. Another false and common avenue to happiness is relying on another person to obtain it. Alan Booth, expert on causes and consequences of divorce, explains that this is one of the main causes of divorce in American families. No one can create happiness for you besides yourself. So with all these false roads to happiness, there must be a true one. Myth number 2, happiness is not a choice. Melbourne University conducted an experiment to test this very myth. It followed 60,000 people over 25 years, and it found that, in the long term, happiness became the variable dependent on other factors in their lives. In other words, the amount of happiness these people achieved depended on their life choices and goals. So if happiness is a choice, then why aren't we always happy? Author Daniel Gilbert offers an interesting thought. If someone offered you a pill that would make you permanently happy, you would be well advised to run in the opposite direction. Emotions are a sort of compass, and a compass stuck north is of no help to anyone. He makes an interesting point. We appreciate the times that we're happy because of the sorrow we've experienced. To go through life expecting all happiness and no sadness would be like expecting all day and no night. This past fall, Hurricane Sandy stories were all over the news. And besides the inspiration of heroism that exists in these stories, I took away something else. Hillary Grossman is a New York resident who found hope through the superstorm. After witnessing the destruction of the home she owned with her husband and all of their possessions being destroyed, then losing her mother and several neighbors to the storm, Grossman realized that it's important to appreciate everything we have in this life. Grossman and her husband found a new home, and they're expecting their first child. This superstorm has made her realize that we need sorrow to appreciate the world's beauty. So how do we find that true road to happiness? It's time to change our perspective. Eric Wilson is author of the book Against Happiness in Praise of Melancholy. A few years before he wrote this book, his friends kindly pointed out that his constant attitude of, not only is the glass half empty, but somebody most likely peed in it, was getting old. After this, Wilson went out and bought numerous self-help books on the topic. He turned his stubborn scowl into a smile. He became more active in the community. He got a dog, he did yoga, and he ate salads. He went step by step and followed the ridiculous directions in these books. But in the end, he realized there is no simple path to happiness. In his view, happiness is overrated. The simple fact is, happiness is a part of life. It's not the end-all be-all. So we have to stop searching for quick-fix ways to happiness. Psychologist Jeff Larson observes that simply having a bunch of things isn't the key to happiness. You have to appreciate the things that you have. In the book 19 Minutes by Jodi Picoult, an equation for happiness is given. In order to achieve happiness, I must divide my reality by my expectations. If my expectations are too great, then I can't be happy. For example, if every day I wake up and expect that I won't have red hair anymore, I will be sorely disappointed. So instead, I just accept it. Appreciating the daily things and people in your life is a step in the right direction. From Bacchus, Hades, and Cupid, we learn the big myth. No amount of three-headed dogs, wine, or illegitimate love will give us happiness. But instead, we get to decide for ourselves. It's time to realize that happiness is a choice, and that the decisions we make in our life will determine how we feel in the future. Once we do this, we can finally put to rest those myths of happiness.